You've heard of dead zones, right? Those stretches of the internet that don't lead anywhere, where broken links and dead websites collect dust like an abandoned ghost town. That's where it started for me. Not in some ancient crypt or haunted mansion, but in a quiet corner of the modern world, online. I'm a freelance developer, and I spend a lot of time on obscure parts of the web. People hire me to dig through old, forgotten sites, to scrape data from places they can't, or won't, go. I've always thought of it as modern archaeology, in a way. But 3 weeks ago, I stumbled onto something I shouldn't have. It started with a simple enough job. A small firm needed me to pull archived content from a long-defunct tech blog. The website had been down for over a decade, but they insisted some of its old articles contained valuable information. I thought it would be a couple of hours' work at most. I was wrong. When I tried to access the site, I was met with a string of broken links and error pages. Typical, but nothing I couldn't handle. I ran a few scripts to dig deeper, to find any cached versions of the site that might still exist on the back end. And that's when I found it. The page wasn't part of the tech blog. It wasn't even on the same server. But somehow, buried deep in the layers of forgotten code, it was there, a link. It had no description, no title, just a string of random characters. I shouldn't have clicked it. But curiosity is a powerful thing, especially for someone like me. The page that loaded was old. Like, ancient. Black background, white text, no images or graphics, just lines and lines of code and text that didn't seem to make any sense. The URL was a garbled mess, like someone had smashed their keyboard and hit enter. I scrolled down, looking for anything that might give me a clue about what this was, but the further I went, the more unnerved I felt. The text wasn't English, or any language I recognized. It was full of strange symbols, runes, and glyphs. But there was something unsettling about the way they were arranged. It felt intentional, like they were speaking directly to me, even though I couldn't understand them. The longer I looked at it, the more it felt like the symbols were shifting, rearranging themselves when I wasn't looking. I was about to close the page when a message popped up in the chat window at the bottom right corner of the screen. It simply read, "Do you see it?" I froze. I hadn't even realized there was a chat window, and there definitely shouldn't have been anyone else on this site. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I should have closed the page, shut it down, but I didn't. I typed back, "See what?" There was a long pause, long enough that I thought maybe the person had left. But then the reply came. "The eye. It's watching you now." My skin prickled with unease. It felt like a joke, some creep trying to freak me out. I closed the chat window and the page, shutting down my browser entirely. For a few moments, I sat there in the dark of my apartment, the screen of my computer casting a faint glow. I told myself it was nothing. A prank. Some weird, forgotten corner of the internet. But then, I noticed something. My screen had turned black when I closed the browser, but there was still something, faint. Like an afterimage. A shadow burned into the pixels. I leaned in, squinting at the screen, and that's when I saw it. An eye. Just barely visible, as if it had been there all along, watching me through the screen. I yanked the power cord from the wall, plunging the room into darkness. My heart was pounding. It was just a glitch, I told myself. A hardware issue. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that the eye had been real, staring at me from the other side. That night, I barely slept. When I did, the dreams came. Dark, suffocating dreams where I was being pulled through a narrow tunnel of static and shadow. And at the end of the tunnel, always, was the eye, unblinking, infinite, watching. The next day, I tried to brush it off. But when I turned my computer back on, the eye was still there, faint but visible, lingering in the background of my screen like a stain I couldn't scrub away. Worse still, I couldn't stop seeing it everywhere else. In the reflective surfaces of windows, in the glint of streetlights, in the eyes of strangers passing me by. It was like the world had been infected by that one, singular gaze. By the end of the week, I was losing it. I hadn't worked, hadn't even gone outside. Every time I tried to sleep, the eye was there, always waiting for me. My computer became unusable, every website I visited, every application I opened, was covered in faint, ghostly outlines of eyes, blinking in and out of existence. I tried everything, wiping my hard drive, buying a new computer, even switching devices. It didn't matter. The eye followed me, appearing on every screen I looked at, no matter where I went. I reached out to a friend, one of the only people I trusted. I didn't tell him the whole story, just that something strange was happening with my computer. He agreed to come over and take a look. When he arrived, I could see the moment it happened, the moment the eye found him. His face went pale, and he turned to me, mouth hanging open in disbelief. "Do you see it?" he whispered, and the words sent a chill down my spine. He left, and I never heard from him again. It's been 3 weeks now. I've stopped trying to fight it. The eye is everywhere. It watches me in every reflection, every surface that catches the light. It's growing. The hum of its presence is louder now, like static buzzing at the edge of my thoughts. I can't block it out. It's inside me. I don't know what it wants. I don't know why it chose me. But I'm starting to understand one thing. It's not just watching. It's waiting. Waiting for me to look deeper, to see what lies beyond the surface. To follow the gaze back to its source. And I'm terrified of what I'll find when I do. Because when I close my eyes now, I don't just see the eye. I see what's behind it. And soon, you will too.